Greetings from Tokyo, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and I very much hope that this video finds you well and in very good spirits wherever you are in the world. And today, if you don't mind, I'd like to continue on with our discussions on 1970s disaster movies. And I'd like to focus our attention today, if I may, on another very interesting one. This time it's a TV movie from 1976, and it was directed by Earl Bellamy, written by Don Ingalls, and produced by Irwin Allen. It has in its very interesting cast people like Robert Culp, Martin Milner, Barbara Hershey, Richard Basehart, Teresa Wright, Roddy McDowall, Carol Lindley, Cameron Mitchell, and others. This is the film, and again, the title says it all. Flood. This is the film which is called Flood. And yes, as the title suggests, this is a film that is about the water-related disaster of a flood. Specifically speaking, we are talking about this small community which is reliant on its fishing industry for its economic success and well-being. And so we have connected with that the sort of water reservoir or lake area, which is bound up by a dam, and which is therefore protecting the relevant neighboring communities from any sort of flood damage, such dam. However, the dam shows signs of cracks, of leakage, and of potential breakage. And although the warning signs are there, some in the community are trying to say, go on as though there are no problems, while there are others who are very seriously recognizing that indeed something terrible could occur. And when all those warning signs are unfortunately ignored, there we have all the traits and all the situations laid out for a potential disaster set forth in this TV film. And when it occurs, it really occurs, and we have an entire community affected by this particular dam breakage and the flood damage, and people being evacuated, and families being separated, loved ones being lost. And it's a wide tapestry of characters and various character subplots and arcs. And will everyone that we have followed along the way be okay, or will something bad happen? And this is part of the disaster genre mold, and alongside with that we have the character developments, the drama, melodrama, soap opera aspects of this. We understand that there are a number of characters that we follow here in this small town community of sorts. We have relationships, we have romances, we have familial relationships. Those are tested as well when the disaster strikes, and we therefore have all the makings of a disaster film with the character melodrama, with the special effects sequences, with the shocking moments and the surprising moments, with the moments of peril, with the various plots, subplots, and subplots that all link in an overall type of network or a connection. And then we have our heroes, as it were, forming a really nice say duo, a tag team, in the characters of played by Robert Culp and Martin Milner. And we get to know a little bit about them and their background and what it is that makes them tick. And then with respect to, say, for example, the Martin Milner character, we understand that he is in a lot of different relationships of sort. He has his romantic relationship with the character played by Barbara Hershey, and also there is a tense relationship with respect to his dealings with the Richard Basehart character, who also happens to be the father of the Barbara Hershey character. And then, of course, you have Teresa Wright, in that dynamic as well. And so that's yet another example. And we have Cameron Mitchell's character and Carol Lindley's character, how they fit in, what happens to them, and Roddy McDowall appears as well. And so this is, I want to suggest, a film that has all the makings and all the traits and characteristics of a disaster film and of a type of Irwin Allen type of disaster film and thriller. And indeed, we feel that as well because we recognize a number of people in the cast, for example, who have appeared in other, say, similar types of disaster movies. I mentioned Carol Lindley and Roddy McDowall, and perhaps we might see those two in another film that is related to the producing efforts of Irwin Allen. Those two might appear in another film that also is water disaster related that we might talk about on this particular channel sometime in the next couple days. But for now, we have this Irwin Allen produced film, Earl Bellamy directed film, TV movie called Flood. Now, in that description, my friends, I want to say, or I want to emphasize that this is still very, or not still, this is very entertaining for the reasons of, say, the disaster idea, the setup, the drama or melodrama or soap opera aspects. And that is part of the charm, that is part of the entertainment value, even when it goes into, say, a little bit of the cheesy or a little bit of the corny. That's okay too, because that is, again, part of the charm or part of the appeal of films like this. And so that's one thing. Another thing too is this is a very wide-scale disaster. It is not enclosed necessarily in one particular, say, environment, but it's in fact out in the open, as it were, and it has far-reaching consequences. And so perhaps it might be said to be, I mean, I think, let me take a step back too, which is also that I think the film does a really good job in trying to show certain components of, say, the disaster-affected areas, certain rooms or houses that are affected. For instance, there's a very harrowing scene involving the Carol Lindley character, and there are rescue operations, and there are various situations that come up, situations involving abandoned buildings or bridge structures or things of that sort in the outside. And then we also have scenes involving, say, sort of emergency operations hub, the hospital, and where people are brought for shelter and also for medical attention. And this is also where sources of, say, dramatic tension and character development occur, as well as plot development and plot information is revealed. So this is also, my point is that I think the film balances it very well, the idea of the outdoors type of disaster affected areas versus the indoors and the central hub of operations, where we can, in many senses of the word, take a breath and get to know where people are, and then they go out again and trying to rescue this particular person or try to figure out what's going on in that particular area, etc., while other people are waiting here. Meanwhile, more issues emerge and more characters are affected, thus creating this sense of a wide-reaching or wide network, net cast in the context of the disaster film arena. So in that way, I think it is very, it keeps our attention, and it keeps our attention with these various subplots that are continually given to us, and so we are engaged and we follow the characters accordingly. Now, for some, this film might seem to be maybe a film that, say, compared with blockbuster cinema films from earlier in the decade, like, say, The Towering Inferno or The Poseidon Adventure, maybe this film might seem a little bit, there might be something that might get lost in the comparison because of, say, budget constraints or something of that sort. So maybe in that way, the actual disaster scenes and how they occur and the setups and the special effects might seem to be not necessarily up to the same budgetary standards that, say, a higher budget film, for example. That being said, however, I think the film, for what it does, it really has some very effective scenes, and I think it works with the materials that it has very well. It might be impossible to show the entire say, shots of the entire flooded area in some kind of effective special effects sequence, but it's still, in terms of the component parts, I think it works very well. And there are some scenes involving rushes of water that are very frightening, and there are some scenes that are very harrowing, and some close-ups inside under the water that are also very effective. And also there are some really interesting character moments too. I must note that there are some moments of character that emerge basically out of almost nowhere, and they catch you by surprise, but when they occur, they really make us, or they remind us of just how devastating this particular event is, in the context of the film anyway. And so I find those to be very, very surprisingly effective, while at the same time understanding that this film, I think, it feels like it's doing its best to show us the special effects and give us that extravaganza feel. And I think for its perhaps limitations, I think it still does a really excellent job in doing that, because, as I say, there are some very effective moments. And some of the actors, too, we see them in the water, and they're really going at it in terms of being involved in work that could be almost like stunt work. And so we see them in the water just engaged and really giving it their all in terms of their performances. And my goodness, if there's something wonderful to be said, it's just how these actors and performers really just go through so many physical demands when they give their performances here, and still give us this entertainment value that is filled with, I think, a genuine sense of earnestness, while also giving us the wonderful entertainment values of campiness and corniness. But that's overall, I think, excellent. And this film, Flood, is a great example of that, my friends. And so it is, I think, a very effective example of this particular genre. It is the Irwin Allen TV movie disaster film, or Irwin Allen produced TV movie disaster film. So perhaps in that vein, or in that relation, it might seem that, say, the blockbuster entertainments, the film entertainments of earlier in the decade might seem to have maybe a bigger, better special effects, as it were. But even so, I think this film delivers with what it has and what it's using and what it's relying on, and it still delivers a very entertaining example in the disaster film genre from the 1970s. This is the film Flood. Okay, my friends, so that's it for now, and so until we meet again, please be happy and healthy and well, and please keep on watching a lot of great movies. Thank you so much, as always, for your time. I very much appreciate it. Stay strong, stay safe, and cheers.